So if you haven't watched the previous video, it would be a good idea to start with that one, because this one's very similar. It says if a voltaic cell is set up in the following way, what is the anode and what is the cathode? And we before we talked about red cat and ox, which means reduction is occurring at the cathode and oxidation is occurring at the anode. So reduction is where the electrons are being used, okay? And oxidation is where the electrons are being formed. This is why the anode is negative and the cathode is thought of as positive because it's taking in the electrons, and this is where the electrons are coming from. But again, if you haven't watched the previous question, I go into more detail. All you need to do to solve these problems is look up the standard reduction potential of these things. The one with the higher standard reduction potential is where reduction is going to be occurring in a spontaneous cell, where E cell is positive, which is when with the direction of the electron flow in the natural state, not like recharging the battery. So that's all you have to do. So if we look at manganese in Mn2+, we find that it's negative 1.185 volts. So negative 1.185 volts. Okay. And then if we find nickel, so remember that manganese is all the way down here. Okay. And nickel is up here at negative 0.257 volts. So nickel, okay, nickel is here. This thing, I can't get it on the right part of the screen. So manganese is here and nickel is above it. Just because nickel is above it, it means that nickel is the one that is going to be reduced. Okay, whichever one is higher is the one that's going to be reduced. Of course, the other one is going to be oxidized. Note that it's also a higher number, right? It's a bigger number because these are negative. And it's higher on the table because the table's listed in order except for zinc, which is a mistake. Okay, so this is basically how this works. At oxidation, okay, so it's red cat and ox, okay? Reduction is occurring at the cathode because it's taking in the electrons, so it's thought of as positive. And oxidation is occurring at the anode, so it's releasing the electrons and is thought of as negative because electrons are negative. All right, Pb in Pb2 plus with aluminum in Al3 plus. So again, we have to find the two things. So here we have aluminum, which is way down here, at negative 1.662 volts. So I'm just going to write that on the other page. All right, negative 1.662 volts. Then we have to find lead, and lead is above it at negative 0.126 volts. Again, because this is higher on the list and because it's a bigger number, this is where reduction is occurring, and this is the cathode. And this is the lower one, lower on the list and a lower number because it's negative. This is where oxidation is occurring, and this is your anode. So this is how the system works.